Okay, welcome everybody. We just thought we would do a few little lockdown videos while we can't do much else, to cover some of the points that we get asked about a lot. Now, for those driving, what we tend to do is we try and marry up the different techniques between road and track, because there are lots of carryovers. And a phrase we're quite famous for using is that the car doesn't know where it is, which is a very true statement. So in other words, the things that you do as a driver to keep the car happy in terms of balance and timing and smoothness and all those kind of things work just as well in every environment. Okay, they're applied slightly differently in terms of speed, but they are very much the same techniques. And one of the things that comes up quite a lot is how to do heel and toe properly and what it's for. Now with the modern gearboxes now, a lot of them being paddle shift, there's less and less call for it, and of course you're also getting auto blip, but being able to do it yourself is such a cool thing and a fundamental part of being a good driver, because it's an essential part of interacting properly with the car and making it work for you. So we are cruising down a very wintry Cheshire lane. Kat is at the wheel.
Hello.
Hello, there we go.
I won't
So
look
we're
too much at the camera.
So we're going to have a little look at heel and toe. So the idea of heel and toe is essentially it matches the engine speed with a lower gear. So if you're driving along at 40 miles an hour in, say, 5th gear, and the car's doing 1500 revs, if you put the car into 3rd gear, the momentum and the wheels and all that kind of stuff, the engine, the transmission and everything else, would speed the engine up to, say, 3000 revs. Now if you do that just by coming off the clutch, what it'll do is it will slow the car, and the problem with that is that it's upsetting the car dynamically, a bit like the potholes that we're finding,
I'm trying to dodge,
which I'll talk about on the vlog a little bit. So the idea of rev matching on its own is that when you come from 5th gear to 3rd gear, what you do is while the clutch is down, is you bring the revs up with the throttle, so that when you release the clutch, the revs are already in the right place and you don't get that engine braking and that upsetting of balance. Now the ideal time to do that, of course, is when you're slowing down. That's when you go for the lower gear. So heel and toe is mixing the two things. You're braking and you're rev matching at the same time. So it takes a little bit of ballet with your feet to make that work. So if I go down towards the cockpit now, down towards the pedal box, we can see what Kat's doing. So currently we're on the throttle. So the idea then is when you do the heel and toe, is you get onto the brake, clutch down, then you match the revs and bring the clutch back up again. So that's it in operation. So the things that people tend to get wrong with this, first of all, is once you've put your foot on the brake, braking has to be your priority, not the heel and toe. So you've got to make sure you're slowing your car down properly. So you've got to have a fiddle around with getting your foot in the right place. The timing then, obviously clutch down, next gear in, revs, bring the clutch straight back up again. So a couple of things that people tend to do wrong. First of all is they move the brake pedal more when they do the rev. So you've got to try and isolate the movement so that just your ankle moves and you catch the throttle without altering the brakes, because that's his own problem. Timing then is the rev needs to be just before you bring the clutch up. So again, the thing we tend to do is people get the rev right, but they leave the clutch down. The things have got to happen pretty much simultaneously. So it's rev, then the clutch. So we have another look at that. So we move down here again.
Do it full speed, yeah?
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah,
so
just so I can see it.
Okay. So there we go. So you can hear and see the timing of that then. So if we keep following the pedal box again now, we'll just drop another one of those in.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what that does, matches the rev perfectly, doesn't upset the braking and the balance of the car, and you get a nice smooth down change. So if you're in a rear-wheel drive car, that makes a massive difference in things like wet weather. So if you imagine you're braking on track to a low speed corner, so you're braking quite hard, if you put it into a lower gear and came off the clutch, there's a very good chance you're going to stop the back wheels and cause yourself a problem. By doing heel and toe, getting that just right, you'll alleviate that problem. So quite a useful technique. It takes practice and it takes patience, because it can be a little bit awkward, but it's well worth the effort.